Hey everyone, Diego here, Mind Middleware. Thank you for joining us. Look, there's sometimes where you meet people that you connect really quickly and you wonder, how is it that this connection is happening so quickly? And I think it comes from the person. And as I went through our guest's history, a lot of what he says and does has to do with connection. So I'm with Michael today, Friedberg, really good friend, colleague for a while, and we are going to have a little bit of a chat about mental health in the IT industry and any industry, really, and many years in trying to figure life out, really. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Diego.
How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. Thank you so much for making the time.
You're welcome.
Hey, why don't you tell us, for people who don't know you, and there's not a lot of people who don't know you, really, I think. Tell me, you're a human being. What is the thing that you do day to day? What's your job that you can tell people that's what you do?
Oh, it's such an interesting question. I think right now my human being is, we're growing a business. And so it's a tough year to grow a business, but it's not our first rodeo, not my first rodeo. So what I'm doing now is, building connections, building a business that helps other businesses grow. And so that's, for me, I've been in a lot of different roles and experienced a lot of different business, but at its heart, it's all about people. So right now, it's tough out there. So how do people get the extra help they need? And we do that from a business perspective and helping them with strategy and marketing and sales and product and go-to-market and things like that, which seem to be needed. And that's what I enjoy doing. And that's kind of what keeps me going. But it is about people. And I think we're seeing that even now more with AI. It has to be about the human, right? AI is great. It's a tool, but it's got to be about how are the humans? And I think we're really noticing for a lot of CEOs, it's challenging out there, and they actually need to be healthy and whole to be able to kind of work through the change and the mess that often they're messy middle, we call it that, they're operating in. So that's what I'm doing. It's called Flux B2B, and it certainly keeps me off the street. I think it's making me, I'm leaning into being courageous and confident. I think that would be a couple of words that describe what it is. Sometimes it's terrifying, sometimes it's exciting, but that's the journey for business people, I think, at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How did you get there? What did you do before that? What was the journey?
So look, I've had a crazy journey. I think my career's been a little bit like a cork on the ocean. Came out of school, traveled for a couple of years, got in hospitality, ended up running a restaurant, the Ducks Deluxe in Christchurch. Met my now wife. She was a lawyer, realized I need to grow up, did a degree, started a business in that last year of degree, sort of marketing consulting company. It was the 90s, .com boom. Sold it to a new Christchurch software development company. They were bought by another company. They were bought, and then finally Telecom bought them. And I joined IBM. And did 15 years in IBM. And that was a crazy experience that I think really helped me understand. Big defining moment for me as a leader and who I am today. Then left there and went out into the fractional, went and set up my own business, and then joined Mega and then Swaytech. And then last year bumped out of there for different reasons, tough, and then went, we need to start our own thing in January. We kind of looked ahead and went, what do people need? What's going to be certain change? Hence Flux. And so that's what led me to that, to go, I think what people are going to need is to lean into this chaos, and they're going to need people they can trust based on all the kind of experience they've had. So that's what led me to that moment. It was a courageous moment when I look back. It was also a moment built out of need. It ended suddenly, and what do you do? Not a lot of jobs around. Actually, we can create something ourselves.
And so how many years of career, if you don't mind me asking?
It's 30 years, 25 years, yeah.
And you started as more of an entrepreneur, and then you moved into corporate. How was that? Because it's very different. I worked for IBM.
Yeah.
And I know what that is.
Yeah.
And I wonder how that dissonance happened for you, because it's a dissonance.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I slotted into IBM, so I found the transition fine. completely fine.
Okay.
So I'd gone from my own small, tiny company to a small company called Computerland. And we worked my way up there to become the CMO. And they were quite a lot. They were a big systems integrator in New Zealand. So the journey to IBM from that point was probably okay. I think I worked out quickly at IBM the things that I can change and the things that I can't. And the things that I can't, I let go. I did not worry about those. I think also as I look back and think about I'm a connector. I see in systems, right? And I can look in to see all the relationships, the connections, and the way a business will work together. So I was very able to operate an IBM, and that it fueled me. Because it's a massive, big system.
Yep.
You've got your New Zealand, you've got your Australia, you've got your Asia Pacific, you've got your global teams. And I really maneuvered and worked in that environment really well. I think the second thing, I was always in the high growth areas, low revenue, right? So under-resourced, but this could be the next growth area. And so you learn, I was often entrepreneurial, as they call it, because I was given small budgets, small amount of resource, go test this, can it work? And so when I came out of IBM into my own business, so to speak, again, that transition was quite easy because I'd already been thinking about how do you do more with less? How do you move quickly? How do you test? How do you iterate? Because I wasn't working in the big industry, complex mainframe consulting parts of the business, which are far more slow moving. So not planned, but that was kind of how it rolled out.
You said that very quickly you realized that there are things that you can change or control and things that you can't. I struggle with that still, by the way. Did that create any pressure on you? Did you feel the stress? Was it a phase in your life where you would go, oh fuck, I don't think I can do this? Or was it you said it was natural? And I wonder, I'm going to talk for a minute here. There's a history and there's the past. The past might be factual.
Yep.
I dropped the ball. History is how I dropped the ball, why I dropped the ball. Is there any reasons that happened, whatnot? So I wonder when we marry those two and we go, oh, it was pretty natural to me. If we are telling that story to ourselves or if we're forgetting the stress that you felt. And I wanted to pry a little bit on that, if that's okay.
A good insight. I think I got addicted to the momentum, right? I think I still am. But I think about my time at IBM and it was crazy. So I remember, talking to a mate, so maybe halfway through my career, I did 14 years there. And I was talking to him and I had this realization, we have email, Slack equivalent, phone calls, meetings, travel. It was constantly on. I remember I got an executive coach at some point and he saw me running in the Auckland office between meetings. He said to me, I don't agree with this. He said, an executive will never run. It's like, I was running late, man. I needed to run. But I think that really summed up, I ran inside this system and I was addicted to it at the cost of, I had a young family, I was out of balance completely, but I was addicted to it. I was good at it. I operated well in it. And yeah, I made mistakes, but I had some great leaders and I had some great opportunity to be able to step outside of New Zealand and experience a different part of the world. And I operated well in that environment. I worked out very quickly all the humans, like you're not one, you can't be successful in a large corporate on your own. You are part of a matrix and part of a system.
Yep.
And I worked out very quickly that if I have a responsibility for this little bit here, that there are 17 cogs around that need to turn in a certain way so I can be successful. And I understood who those people were, and I understood what the global team needed. They needed to report up. They needed confidence in how the budgets were being spent, and they understood what I needed from them. And as a consequence, I was getting first lots of messaging. I was getting the first taste of the products as they were rolling out. When all of that was in sync, and I was able to manage it. But there was definitely my health and my family. I was out of balance. I can see back in that. But when you're in that age, and I started in 2005, so I was 32. 32, is that right? Yeah, just in my late 20s. No, 32, that's right.
I
Sorry.
wouldn't know your age.
Know. And so that was, because I was a bit of a late starter, right? I went to university at 25. And so I think that was a time for me of consolidating, but also running really hard. And, back to your question, I dropped the ball a lot, but I got good at dropping balls that would bounce.
Mm.
And again, I think that's an art. There are some balls that cannot dropped, and then there are some that can. And it's almost like that 80-20 rule. And I'm like that now today. I'll be working with clients and they'll be, look, got to get all these 17 things right. It's like, actually, you don't. You can't. These are the 3 things you must get right. And these other things, I'm just keeping an eye on them. I'm juggling them with one hand over here. And if I drop one, I'm going to bounce and I might pick it up on the bounce. But I know now from experience that it's not going to shatter.
Was it always like, I may be repeating some of this questions, so sorry about that, but was it always like that you feel like, I know the priorities and these are the 3 things?
No.
So how did you learn? How did you go from, fuck, I can't do this, to these 3 things are the ones that I should be doing?
I really don't know. I really don't. It's an organic, I think I'm going to go to an interesting place here. So neurodiversity. So I've got, just a bit of context, we're doing a little bit of work for a great company called Unlock Innovation, some pro bono work. They help unlock the power of neurodivergent thinking dyslexic.
Okay.
It's National Dyslexic Month. Okay. We're doing a panel. I'm helping them run a panel. My son is dyslexic. I've got 3 ADHD kids and 2 ADHD. My wife is ADHD. And what I've been realizing is I'm probably ADHD. So I'm probably dysgraphic, but I'm what they call compensated dyslexic, which means I've dealt with it. I don't even think about myself in that way.
High functioning.
Correct. I don't even think of myself, but what I realize is I think very differently. Now what I'm realizing is dyslexic think in patterns and connections and systems. That's exactly, so what I've been able to do without really thinking deliberately for me is I just begin to operate in that environment. I can see how it all hangs together and the connection points. And now my experience from dropping some balls, but also sensing what's important. I think that's probably my commercial but humanistic view, is to go, these are the important things. And you don't have to learn that from dropping the ball. You can learn that from observing, great, that worked well, but if that did drop, that would be terrible. Would never drop a ball like that. And so I think I've had a lot of success. I've had some failure, but that success drives, great, I'm looking back on that. And then, and so I think when you ask me, I don't know. I think that's just naturally how I have operated, and it's naturally become an advantage for me in terms of how I operate.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget about this question, and I always do, and I always, in every episode, I say, I don't want to forget about this. Anyway,
let's go there.
Let's go there. Yeah. I always ask this question.
Yep.
If you could define your relationship with work with a metaphor, what would that be?
Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting question, and I think you can go deep and overthink it, right? And I started to do that, right? Because you always ask this question, so I knew it was coming. But actually, what I went back to is I sat down with someone recently, someone on my network, a very, very fresh out of university. Someone asked me to mentor them. And so they were like, what do I do? They're building their career out. So they're asking me some questions. And as I went through and was helping them, but also talking about my own career, I described my career as a cork on the ocean, right? Because in IBM, I was there for 14 years. I had 7 roles. Not one of them were planned. I was asked to go to the next thing. I think my relationship with work is very similar. I think it is like I am a vessel on the ocean, right? I don't necessarily have a view of where I'm going, but I'm rowing or moving with the currents of the ocean. As I've got a little bit older, I've realized I need to be a bit more intentional. And I think this is one of these moments now where I'm having a view over here but maybe the ocean currents are pushing me over here, and that's because of economic and whatever, realities. I'm having to row hard. And so my relationship with work is it's waves and swells and calm periods. And I think I've learned to go with that, and sometimes too much. But that's okay, right? I think that's part of who I am. And that relationship with work has been sometimes just very easygoing. That's the flow. But in the last probably 5 years, I've had to start to be, right, I can see a spot over there. I need to go there. And now the ocean is calm sailing. That's awesome. Oh my God, now there are 15-foot waves. And now so maybe I need to go that way to go over there first. Well, there's a calm reef over there. Let's go there. And so I think it is a high energy, low energy, go with the flow, swim, and not through any design of mine, but that has seemed to work for me.
So the expression navigating something for you is quite real when it comes to that. And then did you learn to let go or to let go really? Because if you're floating, I'm a visual person, so I'm imagining you on the ocean right now. And when you're floating there and you go, oh, I can't control this. How there's a cognitive dissonance between I want to control this, but I know I shouldn't.
Yep.
How do you manage that? And because I assume that's still happening.
Yeah. I think that's a really great question, because my visual now is I'm actually hopping on board a ship, aren't I? So I'm floating on the ocean, and then someone says, hey, here's a great role, would love you to come and do this. So I go hop on that ship, and that takes me somewhere, right? And that ship's in the ocean, but I'm now with people on the boat, and they're helping me, and we're a team, right? And we're navigating all of this. And then you have a moment where you're like, I don't want to be on this ship anymore. That ship's going in the wrong direction. I've just come from there. I want to go back there. Now I'm jumping off the ship. Now you're on your own again, right? But you're not, because there are people floating around with you, really. So I think that for me is, and I think in the last 5 years, I've been jumping on and off different ships and learning. But now for the first time, I have a view on the horizon of where I want to go, right? Because I am getting to that age where what does the next 10 years look like? What do I want to do? I don't want to retire at 65. When we built Flux, Gisela, my co-founder, and I had a very deliberate discussion. What do our 60s look like? What do we want to do? So we had that, we defined what we wanted to do. And part of Flux is getting us so that we can do what we want to do and love what we're in flow about. And I think I can only do that because I have been bounced around everywhere, right? And I think you can, there are some times where you get offered a role and you go, I don't want to tell you that sounds terrible. Maybe you should take it. How do you know? What could that learn you? So in IBM, I had a chance to do different things. Some of them I probably wouldn't have ever applied for, but I was this sort of build it guy, like, hey, this is a new thing. You come in and set it up for me. And so I got to experience a lot of new things in that way. So I think now for the first time, I have a view in the horizon of a place I'm headed, but I know that it's not straight. Navigation, I am going to have to navigate a whole lot of different, there'll be plain sailing and there'll be waves and there'll be other boats that will come along and take me to different places on the way, but I have a direction. So now I have some intentionality in my journey on that ocean. Yeah,
and it's never, going back to that point, it's never really direct. And the more you think that is direct, the more disappointed you 100%. Get, and the more you start feeling this stressful burnout feeling of. So equating to your ocean analogy, it's like I'm swimming, but I'm not going anywhere. But not because I'm not swimming right, but because I'm swimming in a direction that doesn't allow me to do so. So maybe if I went differently, I would be able to do it.
Look, and I think this is where you get the drift, right? So you're in a current. So you in the ocean, you're bobbing, but there is a natural current and direction that you're going in.
Yep,
that's the drift.
Yep.
So that's the easy bit. And we get stuck in the drift, a lot of us, and I've certainly been in that where this is cool, this is all right. I maybe not be challenged, I may not be, but I'm in the drift and it's okay. I want to go this way, but I'm drifting that way. At some point, you have to either go, I'm happy in the drift, and the drift can take you to really good places. We don't know.
Sure.
or you have to actually now I need to, how am I going to get out of the drift? Do I have enough leg power? Is there someone next to me that I can hold on to and they're heading in my direction? Is there a small lilo or is there an ocean? And I think the more we talk about this, I think that is, as we go through life in our work lives, but just as much in our personal lives, as who we are as people, we have to change. We get bad habits, but we're in the drift. Even as families, we're talking about our teenagers before we started. You get in the drift of life, and sometimes you go, right, I need to stop this, because this drift is not where we want to go. And that's where I think we've begun to learn that it's great to relax. I've begun to learn so you can relax to some things, but some things you need to take control of. I haven't got it right, don't get me wrong, but I think I'm more aware of it now. And I think now, I'm now totally riffing on the analogy. I think there are a lot of humans who are in the drift and they're tired from paddling and rowing and trying to shift, right? Because there's some massive waves crashing around them and there's rips underneath. And so this is where, for me, you said connection and relationship is so massively important. And sometimes just a cup of coffee with someone will pull you out of will give you enough propulsion, just keep you going a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so let's touch on burnout a little bit. What's your experience there?
Yeah, I think, so at IBM, it was 14 years. It was intense, right? Like, it was unlike anything that I could experience again. And I don't think I ever burnt out. I came to a point, I had one breakdown, where I had a CEO who was probably out of their depth and probably shouldn't have been put in the role. And as a consequence, it was challenging for the leadership team. And I was in a role where I took a lot of that on, and we were doing some huge things at that point. And so that pushed me to the edge. And actually, what got me through was my wife and I saying, just leave. You just need to leave IBM. And the moment I said that, I just relaxed into it's a really interesting kind of transition. And so I think that took me through, that taught me a couple of things about how far you can push yourself, but also how much you can and can't control. I couldn't control that person. And their ability to operate, it's not my responsibility. That is but I'm a humanistic person. And so then I think burnout, I don't think I've had, I think there's been a couple of instances where bullying, and again, crazy to think that still happens. That didn't burn me out, but it really sent me on a curveball, right? And that was a thing like I'd never experienced. That was after IBM, and I'd never experienced anything like that from people. Because of my seniority and my experience, I was completely unprepared for what that meant and how that eroded my self-confidence and eroded my belief in myself and made me doubt myself. And it's really insidious. And it took me a long time to realize what was actually happening. It starts very small, and then there was something big, and it was like, oh my God, this is madness. You are a seasoned leader, and here you've got some numpties, right, bullying you, owners of companies. And so that was again, and that was one of those moments where it's like, you've got to. It was one of those moments where, for the first time in my life, my mindset was challenged, and I was really in a dark place, a negative, introverted, lonely place of doubt. It's a terrible place to be.
How did you pick up the signs of this is happening to me?
I think it was my wife and some friends just going, this is not you, what's going on? And then really luckily and by serendipity, a very good friend of mine, when I was at IBM, used to run a B2B agency, and he decided to retrain as a coach, as a psychotherapist.
Okay.
And he got in contact with me and said, hey, look, I need some guinea pigs. I need some hours. can I coach you? Can I?
Whoa.
And I'm like, I didn't even know. I never even heard of psychotherapy.
Whoa.
And so I said, yeah, sure. Like, okay, well, I'm not sure what that means. So that came in at exactly the right time. And he was, so he used the Gestalt method. And so it was in therapy, coaching like that is you do all the hard work. Like he's not telling you, that's not an advisor. He's not telling you what to do. He is digging deep. And you have to go, and he takes you to these places and a place of different perspective. And so that for me was a moment realizing there are moments in our lives where we cannot do it alone. We are not equipped. I was not equipped to possibly come out of that myself. So then you have alcohol, then you stop exercising. It's just a vicious cycle. So for me, how did I get myself out of that? I had Tom was instrumental in working myself, helping me get through that period to realize that was not my fault, and I was not at fault. And actually, and there was a lot that you have to then work through. But that's a moment of understanding yourself better, right? And some of your own weaknesses and insecurities, which we all have. And so now they still burn there, and we all have that.
Yep.
Imposter syndrome is real, but I think I now have some coping mechanisms on what's my mindset as those voices start to become louder in my head. And he gave me some tips and helped me to do that. So that
is so interesting. So for me, it's funny, that introspection of what depression meant to me and how we need to understand how to get out of it ourselves. That was a realization for me. I always give this analogy around, it's not mine, around quicksand. And to me, the more you try to get out in a certain way, the deeper you go.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to try to get help from someone and just, get them in with you and get them in the same situation. So for me, it was always having people around that sandpit telling you, not even pulling you, telling you, look, that's the branch that you need to grab.
Yeah.
We can only show you where the branch is. You need to exercise. You need to be out there. You need to talk to people. You need to connect. You need to go back to do music. That is something that you haven't done in years. All of those things were branches that I could grab myself onto and just get out. And when I look back now, I see how my relationship with everything was tainted by but this feeling of, but if I do this, I would preempt any of that with, but my depression is not letting me. And it's just, once I realize that it's just not like that, it's the opposite way. And psychologically speaking, I'm no expert. I have no qualifications, nor academic training, for the record. But I read a long time ago that we have this two in Spanish it's called pulsión de vida y pulsión de muerte, which is like a pulse of life and pulse of death. And these are two voices that will talk to you, and the pulse of death will tell you, well, you won't be able to do this, and you're shit, and you're crap at your work, and your wife hates you, and so on. Whereas from the other side, you go, no, actually, that was not failure. You learn a lot from that, and that was not a problem. It's just external things and so on. So that realization is the one that got me out. And it's similar to what you're saying, right? Where you go, what is it that I need to do myself to get to that? And I'm happy that you found someone, by the way.
But I think you've cottoned onto it. So what do I have to do myself? And that, whether that's asking for help, whether that is going, okay, I'm drinking too much. So we are smart people, but we make dumb decisions because we're actually just going with what we know. And there are ways of operating that have got us through in the past, but won't get you through in that moment. And I think this year, last couple of years was really tough, coming out of what I did last and then coming into Flux, setting this up in this current environment. I think this is where all my demons really came to life because I was in my own business again. You've got to put this face market, right? Got to have this always, and people want to deal with people who are confident and happy, but in the back room, you're really struggling with some things. And I think it's been interesting. I think this year for me, it's this change the story, Michael. So what is the story you tell yourself? And that story, you can tell yourself anything. We can tell ourselves anything, but you've got to be honest.
Yep.
And so you have to, I've got better at carving out time to have honest conversations with myself about what's happening and what am I feeling. I think when I'm at my worst, I'm in the tunnel. And I think about the last couple of years, I was in a tunnel. My head was down. I just thought the harder you worked, I'm going to work my way out of this. I'm in the tunnel. That is just so the wrong thing to do. And I'm lucky now in this year, I'm with our clients, a lot of the people I meet and help, CEOs and founders, I'm aware of what the tunnel looks like. And that's a big part of where we come in and help them is to you need help to just, a business sense, put your head up out of the slipstream around you and get some different perspectives out of the quicksand, right? But how do you do that yourself? That's the trick. That's really hard. And I do believe medication can help. I think therapy can help. Obviously, exercise and healthy eating, those things go without saying, right? Healthy mind, healthy body. They're easier to say. I think also one of the things that Tom, my coach, taught me was this thing about, I should do that. I should do this. That just puts more pressure on us. You shouldn't do anything. I need to do this. I want to do that. And it is such a small thing. I shouldn't have that glass of wine. I need it. Just go fucking have it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Don't beat yourself up. You need a glass of wine. You need a glass of wine. It's okay.
Yep.
Maybe don't have the bottle.
Yep.
But
yep.
And then in the morning, don't feel guilty. Maybe just, I'm not going to make that decision today. That's it. No, I shouldn't have had that. And again, I don't get that right, but I'm getting a lot better at not going, we finished the week. And this is such a classic for a lot of people in my network. Should have done that. Didn't get to that. No, I did that. That was awesome.
Yep.
Again, trying to get better at just going, yeah, I did some great stuff this week. We did some good stuff this week. What does that look like? And not focusing on the things we didn't get to. And it sounds so simple, and please, I do not have it right. But I think there's a level of self-awareness. And I think what I've worked out this year for me at my very old age is that actually mental fitness. I think, I'm healthy, I eat well, and I exercise. I've always done that. And the last couple of years, I've kept that balance, right? That's all I do for my mental health. And what I've realized this year is actually you need to do other things.
So much more.
How do you build your mental fitness?
Correct.
Wow.
Yep.
I know, again, pretty late to that party. Don't laugh.
We all are.
But it's really been dawned on me. And so now I've started to be more aware of, small things like I do not look at my phone until I have had my first coffee. I know that doesn't mean I have my first coffee 10 minutes after I wake up. And so that's been and so what do I do in that time? I've got a few little different habits that I'm trying out, but it's really about getting my head into the right mindset for the day, my head in the game in a positive way, in a calm way. Then I have my coffee and then I'm off, right? It's a very small thing. I think also what we tell ourselves before we go to sleep.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I've always been pretty good at not, we'll watch TV, but I'm not on my device before I go to bed. Like that just is a killer. And I think one of the things that I've realized is I remember, at IBM, Lucy would be like, what makes you happy? And I didn't know. I think I've always struggled to really understand that. That leads me to being what is gratitude? So at the end of the day, what has made me happy in the day? What am I thankful for? And some people write it down and I don't. And I thought about it, but I just don't. And I think that's also part of being real. I'm just not going to do that. But what I am a bit more intentional about was, well, what did make me happy today? Like this morning, driving in here over the bridge, traffic cleared, the sun was shining in, I had my coffee, and then a really good, I was listening to some music, it's a great song, and I just had this, and I looked out over the city. That was a really happy moment. I was excited to come and do this. So maybe at the end of my day today, that moment will be a moment of, that was good. Like, I really liked that the day was stretching ahead of me. A whole lot of things was working well. And so that's a simple thing, but I think just being a lot more open and aware of that begins to feed on. And now, don't get me wrong, that not every day is like that. And some days you just don't get there. But again, that's okay. It's when those days are weeks and months, and then you know you got a problem.
In the IT industry, I have this belief that we don't talk about mental health enough. I also believe that men and women struggle differently in our industry. If we go and watch our previous episode and hear retail talking about it, it is appalling. But I do wonder a couple of things. First of all, is it that we believe that we don't talk too much in this industry, but we're more advanced than others? Which misery loves company. It can be a moot point. Is it that we really don't talk about it because it's seen as a weakness out there, which is my belief? Or is it that we do talk about it, we are very advanced, but we're doing nothing about it once we talk about it? What are your thoughts around that?
I think it's all of those things.
All of the above.
But I am going to say I don't think it's particular to IT.
Agreed.
My wife's a lawyer.
Agreed.
Gosh. Legal. Trinity. I think that there's inside tech in this country, I think there's an unhealthy view that to be successful, you've got to work 80 hours a week. That IT, that founders, that CEOs need, like we look at some of our role models on LinkedIn, we look at this perception that you've got to work hard, you've got to give everything up if you want to get this, business, if you want to make it in your career. I think that is particular to tech because we've got startups, we've got founders, we've got raising cap. It's not a straight normal kind of career. Then you've got your corporate career people in the bigger roles. Microsoft, IBM, that is crazy town sometimes, and the expectations there on big salaries, etc. So I think that's possibly fueling that. I do think no one wants to talk about it. I also think there's a generation thing here.
Okay.
I think in 10 years the boomers will be gone. I think the Gen X will be at the end of their careers in boardrooms and leadership teams. And I think millennials, Gen Y, will be the ones that will be in the power seats. They are far more aware of mental health and the challenges, having lived through pandemics and things very different to our generation.
Yep.
So I think we're coming from a place where a lot of senior leaders go, don't talk, just put, or it's not. Really?
What do you have to complain about?
Oh my gosh, go and have a cry, go drink, so I'm being flippant and please, I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but I do think there's an element of just suck it up, Susan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's changing. I look at, I was at an event and there were 4 under 30 tech leaders on the stage talking about their careers, and so different to mine, so different to ours. They're the leaders of the future. So we don't talk about it. I think it is heightened because of the speed and the pace of change and the expectations and sort of keeping up in our industry. But I also think there's changes coming. I think there is a generational shift of the guard, and we're beginning to see that already. So now it will be on to X and then Y, and then potentially millennials. Well, of course millennials, but we've got a little way to see where they and what sort of place they're in. But again, those two generations, and now Generation Alpha, our kids' generation, they're very different. You know, they've grown up with a lot more open conversation. You know, so I feel more confident about the future. I think the next 10 years will be tough for for the sort of our age group as we head into retirement, and those in their mid 30s and 40s whose children are, younger teenage now, but they are, that's where they're struggling with the balance of life and change and transition and skills not being relevant and all of these things that play into our mental health. Plus, I think every human, we can hide, we can mask when we're young. Right? We all have, we put on these hats, we mask, and we become the roles we think we need to be. As we get older, we can't. We're too tired.
Are you there?
We don't have the energy.
Yet?
100%.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yep.
Seinfeld says that with age comes the ability to say no more often.
Yeah, or to not.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He says it's sort of like that, mate.
Yeah, but I think it's, but that means mental health will come out into the open. And I think we're seeing that with the amount of adults being diagnosed with, neurodiversity, right? ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, all of these things where it's like actually, and I think what they're realizing is I had to mask all my life. And now I need to be safe. I need to be in an environment where I can be myself, and that is okay. And what does myself mean? And what is how I operate, my advantage of the way that I think. We're not there yet, but I think there's a huge shift that's driving that is bringing mental health, has to be bringing mental health into the open far more.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's a generation I think about, my family, I'm not, but the three of them are ADHD. So there's been parent and grandparent discussions about, is that real? Oh, are you just putting a label? Of course. These are people in their 70s and 80s, right? But there's still people of that view, and they're in the boardroom.
Yes. And that being instilled into particularly our generation, where we grew up with that way of thinking. So I'll tell you a very short story. When I got diagnosed with depression the last time, I had been in a very, very dark place, and it was really bad. So my GP and a psychiatrist said, you need medication. Like this is going to continue. Yeah. My first thought was, so I lost. I lost this battle, as if there was something that I had to win, first of all. And then I remember she gave me the prescription. I went literally downstairs where the pharmacy is, and I went there and I sat outside the pharmacy with the prescription in my hand and I started crying. And I was like, oh, this feels like defeat. Like I should be able to, and should be able to is the key element there. I should be able to get out of this myself. Why is it that I go and need some chemical shit to be able to get out of that? There's lack of education around it. It's a chemical imbalance. Deal with it. If you had a flu, you would go and take something. And secondly, that feeling that they instilled in us, and members of my family that shall remain fucking nameless, said to me, what do you have to complain about? Just pick yourself up.
Yeah.
Come on. Just go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
Horrible. And that is changing. I agree with you.
Yeah. And that's a lonely place.
It's horrible. People very, very, very close to me. My wife is my best friend. She will always be. And not even her could do anything about it. Or make me feel not alone. Let's just put it that way. I was still in a dark room with all windows closed.
But if you haven't experienced it, your frame of reference doesn't exist. So you're like,
correct.
Just come on.
Correct.
Come on, you can do this. Let's go for a walk. Have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, that age group, they did just suck it up.
That's the most British thing ever.
100%.
Yes.
I know, I love that. I laugh at that. But that's that age group. And they lived through the Second World War. They lived through the depression. Like, let's be real. They lived through some stuff.
Yeah.
But they 100%. Had jobs. They had food. Work was plentiful.
Yeah.
The world was very different then.
And it's not, I laugh. No disrespect to British people, by the way. But And it also does not mean that one thing is right and the other one is wrong, or vice versa, right? So it's just like the way that we grew up and how we dealt with shit.
And this is why the generational change, I think, will be important about mental health. And this is why, if we think about our teams, anyone listening, think about the people you're a leader, think about the people that you lead. Think about the diversity, the differences, generationally, gender-wise, religious, like whatever, that is in your team. And how safe are that do they feel? And what can you learn from them? And how are we having different conversations about, how are you? What does that mean? Right? I'm struggling. What are you struggling with? Do you even know the questions to ask to begin to uncover if there are some mental health challenges? Does the person feel safe to even acknowledge that to you? And, I think I would never have taken medication. I am taking medication this year, like you. I would never have done that. That's an admission of failure, 100%. Yet I would flip Tramadol into my, if I've got a sore hip from without even thinking about it.
Yep.
So I think there is a mindset generational thing there. But I think that's the change that's coming. But I think it's on us just to be a lot more open and have those conversations.
To your leadership point before, thank you, that's really insightful. To your leadership point before, not being dickhead is not enough anymore. It used to be enough. When it'd be like, just don't be a dick. Now it's just like, yeah, but you also need to care. Not just pretend that you care, but you genuinely have to care and have the vulnerable conversation and be able to just come to the party with your heart, right, in your hand.
Look, and I think this is what great leadership looks like. At Flux, we run this thing called the CEO table. So we have 8 CEOs around a table for breakfast, no presentation, no pitches, just conversations. And a big part of that is about helping these leaders become healthy and whole, right? We had one in Christchurch in August and talked a lot about short-termism and the challenges now about just surviving in business. And there was a CEO of a construction company there, 70 people. And what he talked about in terms of his role, he knows the name, all 70 people. He will meet with those 70 people twice a year. Formally, he will walk around and he knows if their son or daughter, if their parents are coming over. What he has said is, it is my job. I cannot guarantee them a job. I cannot predict what the world will deliver. And we're in construction, right? So this has been a bit of a shitfest over the last couple of years. But what I can provide them is stability in our leadership and confidence that we will always be good humans and have their back. And I just go, that means that someone can have a mental health conversation with him because he's genuinely listening and remembering, and he genuinely cares about his people because he knows in his business, he's a people business, right? At construction. And that for me, and he's our age, possibly a little bit older. So we can hide behind the generational thing. I think it's always just about being what does a great leader look like? And what does great leadership look like now?
Thank you. You have answered what should we be doing with everything that you said. So thank you for that. I'll ask you one more question that I always close with this question. If you could whisper in the whole of IT industry's ear tomorrow morning before they wake up and they start their day, does it have to be to make them feel better? Does it have to make them feel anything in particular? What would that thing be that you would say to them before they wake up or when they're waking up?
Don't worry about AI. No, I wouldn't say that. I'm joking. But I wouldn't.
Topical though.
Don't overthink it. No, what would I say to them? You know what? I would say is you are not alone. You do not need to do this alone. We are not meant to be doing this alone. What does that mean? Only you can answer that. But don't be alone. That's what I would whisper to someone.
That is so powerful. Thank you so much. Before we go, is there anything else you want to bring up? Anything you want to say?
I think, look, I applaud what you're doing. I think having these kind of conversations is really important. I think leadership is at a real, because I opened the door to AI, I think leadership is at a real moment now, because what AI is forcing us to do is be more human. We have to really understand what are those human moments. And I think what we're seeing is we're craving more of those. People want events. People want to be in real life because there is so much digital now. So I think we just have to think about what that means in our businesses and our personal lives and how we are growing our business. And I think we have to remember that no matter what technology, and look, you know, in our industry, there's so much technology change, right? We're kind of used to it, and AI is just another thing. But the human piece is becoming more important. And what does that mean? We have to really begin, I think, to understand that. And until we do, AI is just a red herring, a distraction that we can, like a little magpie thing. Oh, this makes my life easier, and I can do these things, and I can get rid of these people now. No. What does it mean for you in your role as a human, your business and your personal life? And then what does AI, what does anything mean? How do we use that? I think that's the challenge that we face. So what am I trying to say? Lean into being human, right? That's what makes us awesome and unpredictable and interesting. And I think that's what I'd like to finish on.
And why you shouldn't be worried, because being human is what's going to make the difference.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't think, and don't bury your head in the sand. That's not what I'm saying. We have to embrace it. But I think there are other things we could be worrying about in the world. And AI, we just need to, Anyway, let's not go down that road.
Yeah. Michael, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you. I love you as a human. You are awesome.
Thank you, Diego. Really enjoyed the chat. You bring out the best human in me.
Oh, I wish I could do the same for me. Thank you so much. Mind Middleware. See you next time. Thank you.